Hello, VR students. I hope you're all doing well, staying happy, healthy, and safe. This is sort of an impromptu video from my literal desktop. I got an email from one of the students asking about animation and having animated avatars and video capturing and those kind of things. So normally we actually do an assignment in the class where you utilize some of the equipment that we have to do some animation, some self-animation, so have an animated avatar in a virtual world. But, since we don't have access to that equipment, not really something that we can easily do from home. But I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about it. There's a couple different ways to do this. One, you're going to need some way of capturing the movement of a character. So there's different motion trackers out there. We talked a bit about the active and passive tracking, like phase space and Vicon and those kind of things. But there's some easier and cheaper ways that you can probably do at home. One, if you just want to have animation of, say, arms and fingers and hands and those kind of things, you can use this guy. This guy is, if you can see the logo on the back there, this guy is a Leap Motion. Leap Motion was recently bought by another company, and it's renamed, I think, Ultra Leap. But essentially what this is, it is a purpose-built motion tracker for hands. This is not exactly how it works, but we're going to approximate, we'll say. And say this guy is effectively a depth camera. So it's taking 3D imagery of the world out in front of it. And based off of this, it has been trained to see hands. That's literally its whole shtick, is it sees hands. And so it scans the world looking for images that look like hands. And it calculates a skeleton associated with all of the joints of your fingers and arms, and actually tracks all the way up to your elbow. And so if you want hands in a virtual world, this is a pretty good, actually a really excellent way to do that without having to like wire up motion trackers to your fingers or anything. They're a little bit on the pricey side for something this tiny, but hey, what they say, good things, small packages. I think the last one of these I got was probably in the $89 range, which in terms of motion tracking isn't actually that bad, especially for something that motion tracks your hands fairly well. It's not perfect. If you want really as close to perfect motion tracking of hands as you can get, you're going to want something that's a higher end system, like maybe a phase space where you outfit your fingers with little active LED markers and you can track them. But if you don't want markers at all and you want the hands to be relatively unencumbered, this is really the way to go. And the cool thing is, sorry for bumping the camera just then. The cool thing is a lot of your HMDs, like the Vive, have a USB port built into the HMD itself. So you can hook this guy up. Yeah, there we go. Hook this guy up and actually plug it directly into the head-mounted display and have this mounted on the front. I have my Vive over here, just give you an idea of what that would look like. Get the little dust off of it. So, it's got this nice blank space right here. It's a good place to mount those. Leap Motion actually has a 3D printable mount that you can go on Thingiverse and make a 3D print of it, and then double-edge tape the mount to the display, and then this thing can pop in and out of the mount. It's actually really convenient. I think it's the Index has a little recessed port that one of these guys can fit in, or something similar. They've made it multi-purpose, but the only thing I'm seeing people use in it right now are the Leap Motions. With the Vive Pros, on the other hand, you can still use this with them, but it's a USB-C plug on the HMD instead of the typical old-school USB. So you're going to have to get another little adapter to go on the end of this to go in, but you can still put this on the front of the Vive Pro. But it will, if you put it on there the same way you would with the regular Vive, it'll cover up the forward-looking cameras. I suppose you could try mounting it horizontal, I mean vertically, but I don't know how well that would work, if at all. Anyway, so the other low-cost option for doing motion capture, and I've intentionally left stickers on this thing to let you get an idea of how accessible these things are, is the Microsoft Kinect. I actually really love these guys. They're awesome. They're a motion tracking system in a single box, effectively. There's two versions of this guy. There is the new version that works with the Xbox One, and then there's this one that works with the Xbox 360. Counterintuitively, you often see these referred to online with the 360 referred to as the V1 for version 1, and the Kinect 1 referred to as the V2 for version 2. But they effectively do the same thing. They do it differently. This guy uses a little infrared projector and an infrared camera to look at, well, it's a structured light method of doing a 3D scan of its surroundings, or rather what it can see in front of it. And the Kinect 1, or V2, uses a similar setup, but instead of structured light, it's actually using a time-of-flight sensor, and it's actually really cool. But these guys are fairly cheap, especially these. The Kinect 360, I actually find all of my used ones on places, or in places like thrift stores. I got this one at our local Goodwill, and you can see the sticker on no returns or exchanges, sold as is, and it works fine. And I don't know if you can see the price tag right there. Yeah, looks like it's washed out, but that indeed says $6.99. So I got this essentially motion capture box for $7 and tax. But what you do is you hook this guy up to your PC. There's some special drivers you need to get, but there's free assets for Unity that you can download, and importing those assets will let you connect to the Kinect and actually motion track a person. So like the Leap motion tracked hands, so its whole purpose in life is to see hands. This thing's whole purpose in life is to see people. So it looks for human forms. And it does a really good job of it. It has a depth camera and a RGB, red, green, blue, a color camera on it. So you can get a depth image of the world in front of you and a color map to go along with it. Now the cool thing about that is, in addition to it being used as a device for doing motion capture, you can also use it as a poor man's 3D scanner. Now granted, the 3D scanning you can do with this guy isn't great. It's okay, but for something that costs you $7 that you can essentially use as a 3D scanning wand, yeah, it's worth the money. Now, I'm oversimplifying ever so slightly, because this did cost $7, and it does work, and the software to make it work is free. But there's one more thing that you need to get. So this guy was originally made to work with the Xbox 360. And you can see it plugged there. That sort of looks like USB, but it's not. And it's the proprietary Xbox 360 connector. So to use this with your computer, you're actually going to have to buy an adapter. And what this guy does, it's essentially takes this, that I think it's essentially USB and power in one plug. I don't think it's actually anything terribly special. But this guy breaks it apart into standard USB and standard 110 wall outlet. Now those, I think I got that one maybe for 10 or $15 online. It wasn't much. So for, definitely under like $30 total, you can get a decent motion capture system for your house. Now, this thing really only works well if it's facing frontally towards the body. So if you're like on an oblique angle, like you're if you're like this in front of it, it'll detect you really well. But if you're turned on your side trying to move, it won't detect that quite as well, because your body is occluding most of itself. But yeah, it's a pretty good device. The Xbox One Kinect does do some better motion tracking. It's a little bit more stable. But it is more expensive. So if this works, for the resolution you need for your motion tracking, this is actually a really good investment. Let's see, what else? What else? I think that pretty much covers. Oh, there is one more thing. You can do body scanning with these guys. There's free software out there for the 360, but not the Kinect one. That was developed by actually a good friend of mine, Evan Sum. We used to work together at USC. He's at University of Minnesota now, I believe. Yeah, that's definitely where he is. And he's the guy that wrote the original like body scanning software for these guys. And the 360 version is free. You can go download it, and it'll use a little internal motor to tilt the scanner up and down, and you can get a nice little 3D scan of yourself. Now, it won't be rigged. Now, rigging is important. So there has to be a skeleton associated with a 3D model of a person in order for it to be animated in Unity. Now, there's software out there that will let you rig a model. And I think there's actually some tutorials I saw when I was just Googling earlier for the student who asked the question that provoked this video. There's some software out there that'll let you do the rigging yourself. There are some things out there that try to auto-rig human-looking avatar. So if it has a roughly human shape, it'll try to figure out what's an arm, what's a leg, where your knees and elbows, and then auto-fit a skeleton to that you can then use in Unity. But if you're not interested in having a 3D scan of yourself and you just want an avatar you can use at all, there's a lot of free rigged avatars that you can get from the Unity Asset Store. So if you do a search on the Unity Asset Store for rigged models, you can definitely find them. And using the free assets for motion tracking with the Kinect, you can use this guy to puppeteer those models. And if you're wanting to write a little extra code, you can tether those models. You need some tweaking. I've done it, but there's definitely some nuance involved. Using the Kinect coupled with the head tracking of, say, a Rift or a Vive, and have an embodied avatar sitting below your head mount, so you can actually look down and see your body as you're moving through the world, which is kind of cool. This can also be used as a body-based controller. Again, software by Evan, FAST, F-A-A-S-T. I think it's Flexible Articulation, I can't remember, Skeleton Toolkit, I think. If you search for FAAST Connect, you'll find it. But it's a program that'll let you map keyboard and mouse movements to physical movements. Like you can raise your arm a certain degree and it'll it says that's the move forward cue or something like that. He actually had a viral video several years back, I think, doing World of Warcraft with the Kinect, and it was using his articulation toolkit. There's one more thing I want to show you, but it's on the other side of the room. Let me run over there and grab that real quick. Be right back. Well, I'm back now. I'm going to edit out the gap in between so that you guys are not having to listen to silence and me shuffling around the room. But what I wanted to show you, I can't find. So I've been cleaning up my office, and one of the horrible side effects of cleaning up my office is I can't find anything for a couple weeks afterward. But what I wanted to show you was actually an attachment that snaps on the front of this guy. And it gives it a wider angle, and you can capture a wider area or scan something even closer. It's a really neat little attachment. I haven't got to play with it yet. Again, found it at a thrift shop. It's amazing how much cool technology you can find for super cheap if you find the right places. Effectively, and this is the only thing I found. It looks similar to this. This is some binocular glasses. But these binocular glasses essentially clip onto the front in front of these two camera lenses, and give you a sort of a zoomed in view. Now, there's some other nifty things that you might want to play around with that are not necessarily exactly related to motion tracking. But there's a really nice sort of off-the-shelf VR devices you can get that utilize your phone. Now, one of the ones that most people are familiar with is the Samsung Gear VR. So this is right here. This is the Samsung Gear VR. It's made to work with, you guessed it, Samsung phones, and they plug in and they snap into place. And it essentially acts, the phone acts as the display and motion tracking device because it already has accelerometers in it, and pretty darn good ones at that. And it has a fairly decent graphics processor and modestly high resolution screen, so you can just plug this guy in here, and you have your focusing lenses that then let you put it on and have a 3 degree of freedom. Remember in class we talked about 3 degree of freedom, only tracking rotations typically. So you can get a 3 degree of freedom VR experience using this guy. Now, that's essentially a very fancy set of lenses. You can get at, cover up the branding of where, at very cheap, inexpensive stores, you can get things like this for like $5. And this is effectively the same thing. Not really. There's a slight difference. And the slight difference being quality of construction in terms of keeping the display stationary and additional sensors. So this is one of the coolest little toys I have found. This is a VR display. Cool, right? How the heck can it be a VR display? Well, remember, I said pretty much everything you need to have a VR display is in your phone already. So, what you can do is you can utilize one of these guys. And this is literally just lenses. It's only lenses and a clip to stick your phone in. Now, I just happen to have a super, super old iPhone here that this would not work with. This is super old. But just to demonstrate, you clip it in, and boom, you have a VR headset. Now, I do see one design flaw. This is where the nose goes, obviously, and this is obviously where the phone clips in. Uh-oh! There's no support on the bottom, so if your phone's thinner than this clip, it'll fall out. You know, ideally, how this guy should have been put together was the clippy part should have been the other way around, and the lenses should have been oriented this way. Maybe that's why it was $5 and on a clearance rack. But still, super cool, because this is effectively all you need to turn your cell phone into a VR display. Yeah, kind of cool. Okay, so we're going to wrap that up right there. I wasn't planning on making this video. It was off the cuff. One of you guys sent me an email asking about motion capture, and I'm like, well, why don't I just record a quick video on it and show you some extra stuff. I have to get to a glorious faculty meeting now, so yay. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know. And I graded all but 2 late submissions of your last VR assignment. They looked really good. Some of you had some really, really great submissions. I think you guys were way more creative under this constrained environment of Mozilla Spoke than you were under Unity. This was awesome. We'll see what we're going to do for the next assignment. We're going to try to work in one more before the end of the semester, and then yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. All right, folks, I'll see you later. Stay happy, healthy, and safe, and as always, be washing your hands. Later.